Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. It's another important time in the life of the city and county of Denver. Every year on September 15th, the mayor submits his budget for the upcoming year to City Council. This will be my fourth budget as mayor of Denver, and I could not be more proud of what this proposal represents and what it means to Denver's neighborhoods. Before I get into details, I want to acknowledge a couple folks who are standing here with me today. First and foremost, our Deputy Mayor and Chief Financial Officer, Carry Kennedy. Gretchen Holler is somewhere in the room. She is our Deputy Chief Financial Officer. Brendan Hanlon, who is the most dynamic, wonderful budget director there is in the nation. No, really, I want to thank Brendan for his tremendous leadership in structuring this budget and working so closely with all the departments and agencies. And of course, to Laura Perry, who runs our capital improvement programming, who is here as well. Would you join with me in thanking our finance and budget team? The 2015 budget we are announcing and submitting today is an exclamation point. This budget makes a statement of who we are as a city and where we are headed. The budget says loudly and clearly that we are creating opportunity after opportunity in neighborhood after neighborhood. We're making strategic investments in neighborhood parks, rec centers, roadways, bike lanes, and parking, in public safety and children, and in affordable housing. This is a budget that will allow Denver to grow smart, to meet the demands of an economy that is simply on fire, to meet the demands of unprecedented construction, to meet the demands of a population base that is growing by 10 to 15,000 people per year. 100,000 more people live in Denver today than in 2000. And another 100,000 are expected in the next decade. That kind of record growth reflects what we all know: Denver is the place to be, to raise a family, to start a business, to find a job. But that kind of record growth also means we must make extremely thoughtful, strategic, and intentional investments to protect our neighborhoods, to serve our children, and keep our residents safe. And that's exactly what this budget does. It lets us upgrade playgrounds, ball fields, basketball courts, and trails throughout our park system, expand our library hours, and open the new Corky Gonzalez Branch Library in West Denver. We are also hiring additional police officers and sheriff deputies. We also want to work hard to expedite and improve the way we review building permits. Here's something to think about. Building permits are up 200% from where they were 5 years ago. In July, we issued some 7,228 building permits, more than any single month in over a decade. Just a few other items I want to highlight before I turn this over to Carry Kennedy. As you know, we're focused on improving a number of overlooked neighborhoods, particularly in North Denver. This budget will provide funds to jumpstart one of the biggest projects, complete the overhaul of Brighton Boulevard, which is one of our main gateways into Denver, but has become not just an eyesore, but an impediment to really turning this part of town into something special. This budget goes a long way to begin to change that dynamic. As you also know, one of the leading priorities of my administration has been affordable housing. In 2014, the 2014 budget, we dedicated $3 million to start a revolving housing fund. I'm pleased that the 2015 budget calls for an additional $3 million. These funds, along with private sector dollars, will help us build hundreds of new housing units so teachers, firefighters, and nurses, and folks who grew up in Denver can afford to live here. Finally, while we are definitely benefiting from an expanding economy and increased revenues, we are holding fast to a conservative budget, policies that have served us well over the years. This budget is balanced. This budget does not call for any additional debt. And this budget will grow our financial reserves to over 15.3% of expenditures. And that's very important because in just 3.5 years, my administration has restored our budgetary reserves for the first time since 2008. Those steps will allow us to maintain our strong credit ratings in bond and investment markets, keeping us on a solid footing and ensuring we are in good shape should the economy falter again. This is what I like to call the opportunity budget for Denver's future. And it is my pleasure now to bring forward the leader of our finance operations in the city of Denver, that being Carry Kennedy.
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations. Thank you all for being here. I just want to call out the city's budget director, Brendan Hanlon, and the entire budget and management team who's here today. Will you all just raise your hands? Raise your hands, BMO staff. There have been a lot of late nights and pizza boxes in the budget and management office, so thank you all so much. This team brings their top professional expertise to serving the taxpayers of Denver every single day, and they are a model for the country in using data-driven decision-making. So they are really able to establish a budget that funds outcomes, not just outputs, through their budget process. And because of that, their innovative tactics and professional expertise have become a national model. So a huge congratulations to the entire BMO team. We're very proud of you. And on behalf of the people of Denver and the management of this city, we want to thank you for all of your time. So over the past several years, you've all have heard me talk about recovery. Recovery from the longest and deepest economic recession in our nation in 80 years. Well, it's great to be up here this morning with you, Mayor, to say we're no longer talking about recovery, that we have real, lasting, and sustained economic growth in our city. We've seen 33 consecutive months of job growth. As the mayor pointed out, our building permit applications, you don't have to look very far to see a crane in this town, up more than 200% since 2009. Restaurant sales are up 40% over the past 5 years, and home values, which are so important to so many people in this city, up 23% over the past 3 years. It's great news for Denver. It's great news for everyone who lives here and works here and invests here. And it means the investment that Mayor Hancock has made, that this city has made over the last 2 decades, and the investments we continue to make today are paying off. Denver's general fund revenues, which generally track our economic growth, are expected to grow by 7.2% in 2014, and we're forecasting 4.7, almost 5% growth in 2015. Most of this growth is being driven by Denver's sales tax. About half of our city's tax revenues come from the sales tax, and our core sales tax revenues this year are expected to be up by 10% in 2014 and expected to grow at 5.6% in 2015. This is very strong growth in our sales tax. It's especially being driven by sales in automobiles, restaurant sales, and building material sales as we see so much construction work around the city. As the mayor said, the challenge there for going forward is for the city to grow smart. Under Mayor Hancock, Denver has become one of the strongest financially performing cities in the country. Today, Denver outperforms even other top-rated cities. We're keeping our budget balanced, paying down debt, holding large reserves, growing our investments, meeting our long-term obligations, and providing open and transparent reporting of how the city uses taxpayers' money. The mayor's 2015 budget proposal builds on this progress. The total operating budget for all funds, including the city and the airport, will increase 2.4% to $1.7 billion in 2015. Our general fund budget, which supports the general operations of city government, will increase a net 6.6% to $1.2 billion. The mayor's proposal prudently holds down the operating budget growth, below our available revenues because we can't count on this growth lasting forever. So it's a conservative approach. The mayor is proposing a one-time transfer of $63.4 million to address deferred capital maintenance and infrastructure needs in neighborhoods and other key priority areas, as the mayor outlined. So I want to thank you all for being here today. Brendan and I and the mayor are happy to take questions. Thank you.
Mayor, there's a sizable increase in Sheriff's Department budget in terms of personnel and also with the Independent Monitor's Office. Talk to me about why you're doing that, the importance of that, particularly with the timing of everything that's going on.
Well, it's right sizing. I mean, one of the things that's been going on over the last several years is trying, particularly with the new Justice Center coming online, Chris, is and a combination of things. I mean, we've had at some point overcrowding recently in the jail. You know, what does it really mean in terms of what we need for staffing? And I think what you're seeing as we have entered into the detention centers and started really looking at the Sheriff's Department, that we have some staffing challenges that we want to try to address in 2015. And so that's what we're attempting to do. As we step up our attempts to really continue to be more accountable with regards to some of the complaints and citizens' requests for follow-up around complaints and things of that nature with the police department, sheriff's department. We want to make sure that the independent monitor has some tools, some additional tools to help as well in that process. So I think you see what we're doing is continuing to assess, making sure our decisions are data-driven, and making the right decisions as resources allow us. Any other questions? Wonderful. Thank you all.